On July 20th, 1969, humanity pulled off what is arguably its greatest technical achievement. Over the next 3 years, 12 humans would step out of spacecraft and walk across the surface of the moon. Yet, decades later, a specific kind of skepticism persists. It usually starts when someone looks at a grainy television broadcast or a handful of old, heavily reproduced photographs and wonders if it was all staged on a Hollywood soundstage. But to honestly evaluate whether the lunar landings happened, we have to zoom out. We have to look past the small group of men in spacesuits and consider the massive physical footprint the Apollo program actually left behind. Because the definitive proof of Apollo isn't found in a single video clip. It's found in a vast, complex web of independent physical and scientific evidence scattered across the globe and the solar system. To believe the whole thing was a lie, you have to prove that faking this exact, independently verified evidence from scratch is somehow easier than just building the rockets and going there. The logistics of a hoax start falling apart the moment you look at the human element. The Apollo program employed nearly 400,000 scientists, engineers, and technicians. Keeping a secret requires minimizing the number of people who know it. Faking the lunar missions would require hundreds of thousands of individuals to maintain perfect, coordinated silence, without a single credible technical whistleblower coming forward with physical proof for over half a century. Then there's the geopolitical reality. This entire operation took place at the height of the Cold War, a period defined by intense espionage and rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The Soviets had their own highly advanced space program. They were actively tracking NASA's telemetry and watching the trajectory of American spacecraft in real time. If there were any irregularities, if those signals were bouncing off a satellite in low Earth orbit instead of traveling all the way from the moon, Soviet intelligence would have caught it immediately. They had every political motive to humiliate the US on the global stage, yet they officially recognized the American success. A successful conspiracy requires the active, silent complicity of the Soviet Union, the United States' most capable and hostile global rival. Let's examine the physical artifacts. Astronauts collected 382 kilograms of lunar rocks. These samples contain zero water, composed of minerals formed in an unoxidized vacuum. You cannot find rocks with this exact chemical makeup anywhere on Earth. This diagram illustrates another striking feature. Lunar samples are covered in microscopic impact craters. Because the moon lacks an atmosphere, tiny micrometeorites strike its surface continuously. Here on Earth, our atmosphere causes these tiny particles to burn up long before they reach the ground. Isotopic dating places the age of these samples at up to 4.4 billion years old, matching the timeline of the early solar system. And NASA didn't hoard these rocks in a vault. They distributed them to independent laboratories all over the world, allowing scientists from rival and allied nations alike to verify their exact origin. We can also see this unique environment in the historical footage. When an astronaut kicks up dirt, the dust falls instantly back to the surface in a clean, perfect parabolic arc. There is no air resistance, so the dust never billows into clouds. It behaves exactly according to the laws of physics in a vacuum. To fake this in 1969, a film crew would have needed to perfectly simulate a massive zero-atmosphere environment on Earth, while geoscientists simultaneously manufactured tons of alien, billions-of-years-old rock. The evidence isn't locked away in the past. During the Apollo missions, astronauts physically placed laser retroreflectors onto the lunar surface. This diagram shows how they work. Independent observatories on Earth point powerful lasers at exact lunar coordinates, striking the prism panels and bouncing light directly back. By measuring the return time, scientists calculate the precise Earth-Moon distance down to the millimeter. Beyond lasers, we now have high-resolution satellites orbiting the moon, like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, capturing highly detailed images of the terrain. Space agencies from Japan, India, and China has independently photographed the lunar surface with their own orbital probes. Here, we see an image of a Chinese lunar rover leaving tracks in the soil. Because there is no wind or weather to erode the landscape, the original Apollo lander bases, astronaut footprints, and rover tracks remain perfectly preserved. You don't have to place blind trust in the American government of 1969. Anyone with the right equipment today can actively bounce a laser off Apollo hardware, and independent nations verify the landing sites with their own satellites right now. When we look closely at the claims against the Apollo program, they usually attack isolated anomalies, but the reality of the moon landings does not rest on a single point of failure. As this diagram shows, we are looking at a convergence of completely distinct data streams: geology, the behavior of dust in a vacuum, Soviet telemetry, and modern optical surveys. All these independent fields arrive at the exact same conclusion. To dismiss the landings, you must do more than find a strange shadow in a photograph. You have to ignore millions of hours of peer-reviewed research, verified by the global scientific community over 5 decades. Our journey to the stars is evidenced by a scientific legacy left on the lunar surface, physical proof that the Apollo missions were real.